Today we're going to be detailing how to properly scout for wheat midge. Wheat midge is a potentially very serious pest of wheat. The adults lay eggs on the wheat head as they emerge, and the larvae actually damage the developing kernel. So in order to properly scout for wheat midge, we need to both understand the biology and development of the wheat midge as well as the development of the wheat itself. And we can get a really good read on the development of wheat midge using development models. They take the heat unit accumulation for the season in a particular area and model when the midge should be emerging. We can also use pheromone traps. The pheromone traps attract and catch the males, and the males come out 2 to 3 days ahead of the females. So when we get a spike in the males' emergence, then we know that 2 or 3 days later we need to be in the field looking for the females. When we go out to scout for wheat midge, the first thing we have to assess is the stage of the wheat. When we come up to the field, is it heading? If it's heading, are the anthers out? And what part of anthesis is the wheat actually in? So the wheat is actually susceptible from the time the head is visible, even if it's visible through a crack in the side of the boot, until the anthers come out. And in order to know where we are in anthesis on an individual head, we look at the anthers themselves. Are they coming out in the middle of the head? That's early anthesis. If you're seeing anthers at the top and the bottom of the head, that's the end of the anthesis for that particular head. Then you need to sort of get an idea in your head about where the whole field is at in order to make your final determination whether or not that field is susceptible to midge still. When we go out to the field, we're more likely to find more midge in low-lying areas. We're more likely to find more midge on the border between last year's wheat and this year's wheat. We're more likely to find more midge on higher clay soils and higher organic matter soils, and less midge actually on hilltops and areas where it is a little bit drier. It really is about moisture. The midge do better in moisture conditions, so those areas that tend to be wetter in the field tend to have more midge. Once we've determined that a wheat field is in a susceptible stage and the midge are emerging, we need to get out to the field and actually do the assessment. And these assessments are all done as the sun is setting because the midge are not active during the day. A couple tricks that people have talked about and have used is to just do a quick set of sweeps to see if you're finding wheat midge. That's a nice quick way to see if there's midge activity in the field. Another way that people have used is to use a pie plate or a paper plate sprayed with spray-on oil and just sweep it through the crop, and you can see whether or not there's midge activity. Once we're out in the field and we've determined that there's midge activity, then we have to determine whether or not we're at threshold. So the threshold for yield protection is 1 midge on 5 heads, and the threshold for grade protection is 1 midge in 10 heads. Now, how we assess this is we actually just walk out into the field, sit down, and watch the midge activity on 10 heads. And then we turn 90 degrees, and then we watch the midge activity on 10 heads in that direction, and then in a third direction do the same. And then you go 3 or 4 more places in the field and check the same way. It's important to understand that the onset of evening wheat midge activity can vary greatly from an hour before sunset to complete darkness. So if you know that wheat midge are present through traps or previous scouting, you may have to wait for them. Also, wheat midge counts can be done using a flashlight if it gets too dark to see well. When you're done that, you kind of look at your numbers, and if you're above thresholds, then you'll need to do something about it. If you're below thresholds, then you get the lucky job of coming back and checking again until your wheat reaches that anthesis stage. When you do your sweep net assessments, you may actually find the parasitoid of the wheat midge. And when you do those sweep net samples, they're actually just look like little black jumping spots in the net. And it's important to take note of those because that may influence your decision to spray or not spray if you're near the threshold. In Alberta, we've had situations where we've lost up to 50% of wheat yields to wheat midge damage. So it's very important to understand the life cycle of the midge and how it relates to development of the wheat and how to make a proper decision on whether control is warranted or not.